how would you go about building credibility with your reports and other people on the team?
Hey everybody, I'm Navneet. I'm an engineering manager at Amazon. I'm in Amazon Alexa, so really happy to be here.
We're very glad to have you and excited to get this mock interview started. Today we're doing an engineering management mock interview. And my first question for you, Navneet, is if you're taking on a new team where you didn't know the majority of the people or hadn't built the team up yourself, how would you go about building credibility with your reports and other people on the team?
And that's an interesting question. So when I join a new team, I consider, like, again, I take an analogy that I am a new organ and that needs to fit into the body of the host when I'm going in. And I think the adaptability needs to happen from both sides. So from my perspective, I first try to understand how the team works, how the team functions, how the team decisions. Like, there are various ways teams can make decisions. Sometimes the team makes decision in a meeting setting, right? Where, especially at Amazon, we have a concept of documents. So people bring in documents and they have a discussion, and at the end of the meeting, we make a decision. Sometimes actually the decisions are made outside of the meeting, means people have already made decisions in an offline setting and they are just meeting finally to just agree on that decision, to make it, put a stamp on it. So I try to understand what the team culture is, and every team works differently, so I can sort of gel into that. I also try to identify who are the key people, who are the key decision makers into the team, so I can align with them. And I try the other thing that I try to do is that I try to understand the personality of each and every team member, so I can interact with them, because I think to build a credibility, communication is a very critical part, and everybody is different, so you need to understand each of everybody's point of view, and that's how you make connection with them. And the most important thing is, again, technical part, where you need to make sure that you are getting yourself familiarized with the services or the things that the team is building, and you gain enough knowledge so you can participate not just as a consumer of the information that is being shared with you, but you can also add value to that. So I think all these things together that helps you being adjusted into the team very well.
I see. And then how do you prioritize which of these things to approach first? So I assume that once you're thrown into a team that is already going in full speed in one direction, either to launch a product or something, perhaps there's a deadline approaching, but then there's also your deadlines where you're trying to get to know people. What's your prioritization like in this situation?
So that's a very important thing. I think, like, one thing that we need to highlight is that we are not slowing down the team. If I'm joining a new team, I'm not slowing them down, right? So I meet with the team, and then I figure out, okay, where do they need my help the most? Because I think that's where the credibility part also comes in, where if I can add immediate values, right? What happens in generally is that whenever you join new team, there are two kind of skills that are required for you to be successful into the new team. One, I call them transferable skills, means something that you have learned in your previous job or in previous team that can translate as is to the new team, right? Maybe if the team is having some operational challenges, I know what to look for and how to work with the team to improve those operation challenges. In other scenarios, the other set of skills is which you don't know. For example, the domain. Like when I joined Alexa, I didn't know anything about Alexa, right? So those are the new skills that I need to sort of build up. So what I do is that I try to find out opportunities in the team where I can utilize my transferable skills and contribute to the team sooner.
Thank you so much for answering that. Another question I want to explore is, so Amazon has these leadership principles for their engineering managers, and one of those principles is insisting on the highest standards. So how do you keep the operational bar high for your team?
So the so operational bar, actually, it starts with the design, right? When we are doing the design, when the team is doing the design, I make sure, and we have mechanisms in the design template as well as in the design review process to make sure that we are not just considering from the feature perspective and what we want to build for the users, but we are looking from the operational perspective as well. How many queries are we expecting every second to be delivered? What is the TP? What is the latency that we expect an API to be delivered, right? What happens if a particular API that we are depending upon fails? So we try to make sure from that all of our design documents, they consider these things, right? So even if a new engineer joins the team, and if he or she is building a new service, because we already have these kind of templates and these sort of expectations, we do the right thing from the beginning. So once we deploy the service, we have another thing that happens just after the code completion or when the deployments begin. It's called an ORR, which is like a readiness system, where we actually, again, Netflix has a system like for like Chaos Monkey. Amazon has its own system where we go through a rigorous testing for our services in production to make sure that everything is good. So with these two approach, let's say if we are building a new service, it means it is healthy on day one when it goes to production. For ongoing maintenance or ongoing keeping the service healthy, we have weekly operational excellence meetings where what we do is that we review the incoming tickets that we have from operational perspective. We have various charts which are depicting the number of errors that are happening daily or weekly basis, or what are the performance bar for the APIs. Are there any customer facing issues that we have received? What are we meeting the SLA? So all these data points makes us sure that we are keeping an eye after deployment as well, and our customers are happy.
Understood. Thank you so much for those answers, Navneet. It's very interesting getting some insight into the engineering management process and the kind of questions that Amazon would ask. So I want to ask you, for people who are going through this interview process, especially with Amazon, what are your suggestions and tips and advice for them?
So my biggest tip is, again, go through Amazon's leadership principles and pick out various experiences that you have in your past and map each of the leadership principles with one or two scenarios, one or two of the examples. Because at Amazon, again, we live and breathe by these leadership principles. In every meeting and every instance, people quote these leadership principles. For example, when we need to make a choice, let's say I'm working on a feature, right? And the feature estimate comes to, say, 6 months, but our customer is requiring for and waiting for that feature. So now here we have a conflict between delivering a great value to our customer with a highest standard. So we have a leadership principle, insist on high standards, but we have another leadership principle, which is called bias for action. If our customers are needing it, how I can adjust either the scope of the project, or I can add more resources, or I can do something else to make sure that I have a bias for action and I can deliver incremental value to the customer. Right? So we look for these kind of examples in our interview. So think about your past projects and then map all of them to the leadership principles, and that will help you answer the questions and be successful.
Makes sense. And then so I understand that this is a mock interview setting. It's also a recorded setting. Perhaps you couldn't give specific examples in any of your answers. Is there anything that you would have changed in the way that you would have answered these questions in a real interview?
Again, yeah, the more data points, again, Amazon is like a data-driven company, right? So the more data points, more specifics you can provide, the better it is.
Got it. Yeah, and these are a lot easier to provide in a private setting when you're actually interviewing with someone, because that privacy is definitely respected between company interviewers.
Exactly. There is another leadership principle at Amazon is untrust. Untrust means if you have made a mistake, you are vocally self-critical. Again, it used to be one of the old leadership principles, vocally self-critical, but it got mapped into untrust, where you don't just say, okay, I've been 100% successful. You also talk about the failures that you had and how did you learn from them.
That's really good to know. And are there any specific methods or modes in which people are self-critical? Like, is it in retroactives where they talk with their teams about maybe things that they could have done better, or self-published notes about what they would like to improve on next half? What's the method of communicating this self-criticism?
So there are various mechanisms. Again, depending upon the level where you are communicating, there are different modes. It happens into the sprint retrospective at a team scope. Then the team sends an email to the broader audiences and their stakeholders, either after every sprint or at a monthly basis. We also have MBR, like monthly business reviews and quarterly business reviews. in all these documents, we just don't list our top misses. We also list down what did we, sorry, not top hits. We also list down the things that we missed.
Mm-hmm.
And what did we learn from it, and what we are doing to sort of for future perspective. Yeah.
Okay. That's really good to know. Thank you so much, Navneet. This was extremely enlightening, and I hope this is helpful for anybody who's pursuing interviewing for engineering management positions at Amazon. Thank you very much for being with us today, and good luck with all your future interviews.